Hello and welcome to Snipes Castle, Senior Chief's True Navy Sea Stories with myself, retired Senior Chief Darryl Starks, and my homeboy and partner, retired Chief Dennis Bertolini. What's up, Dennis?
Hey, what's going on, Daryl? How you doing?
Good, good, good. Getting over this Las Vegas flu. I brought back my winnings because I sure ain't win nothing else. All right, all right. Um, Here, either myself, Dennis, or a guest will tell a sea story from our time in the world's greatest Navy, United States Navy. Some of these sea stories will make you laugh, sad, and even mad at times. That's why I call it Senior's True Navy Sea Stories. So today, Dennis, I have the story of the sailor who went UA underway. The sailor who went UA underway. All right. So this happened to me on the USS Porter, USS Porter DDG 78, and we was underway. Uh, we were first in port. All right, we was first in port. I can't remember what port we were in, but it was a good port. I remember we was having a good time in that port.
What
You
was it
know,
while on deployment?
yeah, yeah, we was on a deployment.
Wow.
We was on a deployment, and we was in port the day before we get underway, and everybody was having a good time. I remember we was having a good time in this port, and the Ford Bosa's locker on the USS Porter, uh, USS Porter, was a place where the seam deck seamen, that's their spot to go relax, have a good time,
Right.
and there was a bunch of them, male, female, so they was up there during the evening time. They had the music blasting. They had that top hatch open, breaking condition, yoke, modified condition, well, yoke. Had the music going. I remember the weather was really good. And I remember when I was in the engineering log room, and I remember Spake coming to me. He's like, "Yeah, the deck seaman up there, boy. They got the music blasting up there, having a good time." I was like, "Man, okay." But the next day, uh, we was about to get underway. Now, this is the story that I was told. All right. So, there's people on midships right there at the porter where he's about to get on any DDG. When he's about to get away, there's a bunch of people.
Right.
So it was early morning, and they saw this young lady walking. She's brand new. She hadn't been on a ship very long. She hadn't been on a board very long. So they saw this young female. She was walking kind of, you know, out of it, just walking, like in a daze. And they, some of the girls went to her and asked her, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" You know, and from what I was told, she told them that she was sexually assaulted. She's sexually assaulted, and the Navy takes sexual assault very seriously,
Yeah.
very seriously. So, of course, they rushed her down to medical, of course, to see Doc. The master at arms came. Doc notified the master at arms. Master at arms came, and of course, she divulged the names of the two. Well, it was two of them, apparently, the two sailors that were involved during this alleged sexual assault. So they, I remember because I was seeing Anchor E out at that time, and I remember them passing the word for two seamen's names over to one MC. I figure they was trying to get the seamen onto their scene anchor station they were
Right.
missing,
Yeah.
but I remember them passing the word for these two seamen's, and when we got underway, and that's when the story kind of came, uh, back to me. And she claimed she was sexually assaulted by these two seamen. One of the seamen showed up when his name was passed. And, they confined him to medical. Medical has this little back room with with a rack back there
Yeah. Yeah. I
when you go through
remember.
that door. And they confined him back there like a little prison. Confined him. That's the first time I ever see somebody confined. Because I remember when I went to medical, where we was underway, and going into medical, and the HM handing him a tray through the door, and the door being closed. So that was like his little prison.
Wow.
And that's the first time I see somebody confined, but he was confined in medical. The other guy could not find, because I remember they passed the word for him 2 or 3 more times, but he never showed up. So we got underway, and they did an extensive search. Although we thought, they did an extensive search, but they could not find him. And he was on board the ship. They said, yeah, he was on board the ship. So we was underway, and how when we underway, everybody talks about it. Oh, such and such
Yeah.
on board
Yeah.
somewhere hiding, you know.
This show
And
fast.
yeah, and eventually, I didn't think any of it, just talk, But we're underway a week, still no sign of this guy.
Yeah.
And we're underway the second week, and I I wasn't on watch, but there was another section on watch when we was underway, and it was sound and security. So sound and security doing his rounds, doing a correct round, and not just sitting down cruising his little cell phone or somewhere talking to his buddies, but he's actually doing his job. And he went down to the reefer decks. It was on the mid watch sometime. It was on the late watch, the red lights on,
Yeah.
darkened
Yeah.
ship is on, and everything down there. Very dark on the reefer decks. So he goes down there, and he sees someone run onto the reefer decks. And I didn't know the reefer decks were that extensive until I actually did a working party,
Yeah.
and I went down there to the dry stores. And I mean, there's a lot of room down there. I mean, it's a lot of space back there. You could hide.
Yeah. Definitely.
But the sound security said, "Hey, I see someone that looks like a stowaway running into the reefer decks." And so they notified the EL notified the bridge, and I remember the word being passed because I was still up at this time. I don't know why I was up. Maybe I was getting relieved to watch, or I just got relieved. I can't remember. But I remember them passing word after taps, master at arms, duty master at arms, bridge. No, duty master at arms, reefer decks. And I'm like, why they calling to the master at arms to the reefer decks? That's the first thing that go through everybody's mind that's awake. So the master at arms went to the reefer decks with a couple of other people because they think this is a stowaway. They think
Right.
this is not a Navy person. They think this is a stowaway. So they go down there. They do extensive search, really good search, and they find the encampment of the seamen down on the reefer decks. What better place to be if you're going to go underway, UA underway, than the reefer decks, where you got all the dry stores you can eat, all the
Yeah.
breads you could eat, you know,
That.
and sit down there and eat fruits all day. So they found the seaman down there on the reefer decks. So of course they apprehended him, brought him up, and I think they put him in like one of those empty staterooms where he was confined for the underway. And they was confined for a long. It was a fairly decent long underway for us when we was returning back. So they stayed in confinement for a while. So they confined these two dudes, these two seamen, who were allegedly accused of sexually assaulting this lady, this female seaman, and this lady sailor. But they was allegedly accused of that. So we get back in port, and of course they go to uh, like a court, like a court martial or something like
Yeah.
that. They go to a trial, and guess what happened? You know that all everything these two seamen endured. They get one, he comes up, say, "Hey, here I am." They lock him up basically in confinement in the medical's extra room. The other guy, he endured 2 weeks of being underway on ship until they found him on the reefer decks. I mean, he had a beard and everything. That's why I thought he was a stowaway. He had a beard. And what he did was, during darkened ship, he would go out and during darkened ship, go use the restroom on one of the head, one of the heads, the berthing heads,
Yeah.
you know. And he said if he ran into somebody, nobody would even question this dude with a beard, right?
Wow. That
And I
is something.
believe they had the no shave chits going on or whatnot, and they canceled that just to see if they could find this guy. All right, but that's what he would do. He would just lay low all day on the reefer decks, come out at night during darkened ship, use the head or whatever he had to do, and then go back down to the reefer decks. But both of these seamen, they went to a court martial, and the ruling was that they were found not guilty. It was consensual. After all that, these two seamen were found not guilty. That it was consensual. And of course, they just disappeared off the ship. They never came back. They
Yeah.
never, I never saw it, never knew what happened to them, but they just disappeared off the ship. However, which is strange, is this the seaman, the female, she stayed on board. She stayed on board, which is strange
Yeah.
because
It's definitely.
I saw her, she was eating on the mess decks. I'm like, damn, they ain't transfer her off. But she lasted maybe a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, maybe longer. Because after a while, she disappeared off the ship. So I guess they was getting paperwork for her ready or whatnot. She
Yeah.
disappeared off the ship. Never knew what happened to her or whatnot. But that's the story of the sailor who went UA underway. All right.
I,
And
I mean that's some crazy stuff that happens that starts something that's small that could really ruin the careers of a lot of sailors, but also create a lot of other problems on the ship itself. But 2 weeks, but the reefer deck encampment that is I, that's I gotta give some props to that sailor. I mean, that's a survival of the fittest kind of thing.
yeah. Oh shit. Because usually every space, I know somebody had to go down there, one of the CSs to grab some stuff, and he maneuvered himself around the reefer decks so he wouldn't get caught for it was over 2 weeks because they were still looking for this dude. And they eventually found, he came out at the wrong time when Sound Security was doing his round. And Sound Security's called back and said, hey, we got a stowaway on this ship. There's a guy with a beard that ran into the reefer decks.
It truly is amazing. Like, how good do you know your ship that you can find a place to hide away, and coming up from the ranks from being an engineer, being a fireman, you like I learned so many different spaces that didn't know existed, but could be such a great places to hide away from public eye, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's amazing. Yeah,
yeah. Hide away from the public eye, go read a book, go take a nap, and you
exactly,
really shouldn't go take a nap without somebody at least knowing where you at,
exactly.
because I, I did when I was young, a fireman. I used to go sleep under the GTMs on the kid class, on my first ship kid class. I went and to sleep under the GTMs. The GTMs, down in the main space is loud. So we was about to get on the way, and they calling for me for seeing anchor, and I can hear. I was down there dead asleep on top of a bleed air pipe. I could sleep so good. I could
Yes,
sleep on top of a bleed air pipe without falling.
I, I I don't think it's the heat. I think it's the vibrations that the main engines send out, the frequencies that puts you best to sleep. And
Yeah, I mean, I could sleep under there
it,
so
it's
good.
amazing. Some of the best sleep ever.
Yeah, but they I remember Singleton. Shout out to Singleton, Chris Singleton out there. Chris Singleton came in there. It's like, Daryl, man, they calling for you, man. They calling for you. And I went and talked to my. He's like, I had to go see Senior Chief Jones, my department LCPO, and I went to him. And he's like, "Where were you?" I was like, "I was lying in the purifier, and I couldn't hear." And I could look in his face. I could look in his face, and he knew I was bullshitting him. I could look in his face, and he knew I was bullshitting him. He's like, "Well, don't do that again. Get on your scene anchor station." You know, shout out to CH Jones, my first departmental LCPO, the guy that I looked at and I was like, man, that guy in his khakis all the time in the log room, man. How can I get his job? But yeah, that's
that
the story.
that that's quite a story. You hear those from time to time. People going UA aboard the ship. Sometimes for a good reason, sometimes for a bad reason. This is definitely uh, an interesting story for sure.
Yeah. Anybody out there, y'all had anybody go UA underway? Any of those stories? Let us know down in the comments or come on and talk to us about it. All right. Make sure you like the video and share the video. Okay. This is me, my homeboy Dennis Bertanini on Senior Chief's True Navy Sea Stories. See you next time for another exciting sea story from the U.S. Navy. Bye bye.